Welcome to the Smarmy Grin Podcast, episode number 22. Welcome back, ladies and gents. Welcome back to the Smarmy Grin Podcast, episode number 22. On tonight's podcast, I will be talking about Halloween aftermath, my Halloween aftermath, a little bit of MMA. Just going to cover that a little bit. GSP's win last night over Bispin. My thoughts on that. I'm going to cover a little bit of football. NFL Football Sunday. It's Sunday, and I'm hanging out at my house doing this podcast. So I'll be covering that. And on the vent, I will be talking about and venting about and bitching and moaning about political drunkenness or political drunks. Thank you guys once again for listening to the most listened to podcast show on my channel, which is basically only like 5 of y'all. But it's my channel, so it is the most listen to show on my channel. What's going on? I hope you guys are having or had a great weekend. I had a great weekend, had a great week following Halloween. I love this time of the year. I've spoken about this many times. Today I woke up this morning, Sunday morning, post-Halloween, first weekend post-Halloween. Keep in mind, daylight savings time just happened this weekend. Yay! Thanks, America. But I'm not a big fan of daylight savings time. I'm pretty sure most of y'all are not. Woke up this morning early. Had to meet up with one of my friends, play some tennis. So I went, played some tennis. I'm not going to say I'm out of shape. I'm just a little bit out of shape. My friend that I play tennis with, he's like 20 years older than I am. He's been playing tennis his whole life. I just picked up playing tennis, how long ago? Probably like a couple of years ago, just playing with him. I played it a lot when I was younger in high school, and then I stopped playing for a long time. I absolutely love the sport. I wish I would have kept playing. Definitely would have been a better player, but that's the whole point right now for the last couple of years. I'm getting older. I can't compete as well as far as playing basketball. And I need another form of cardio. And tennis is a perfect form for cardio. So I'm going to pick that up. I try to pick up golf. Too boring for me. Not enough action. I got to have action, man, when it comes to sports and when it comes to exercising. Riding my bicycle does that for me, as I call it, my suburban bike. Tennis does that for me. And basketball does that for me. But I know that as I get older, I'm going to have issues keeping up with the younger players. And a lot of these younger guys are 20 years younger than me, 15 younger than me. So it's hard. It's hard to keep up with those young fellas. Excuse me. So that's why I picked up tennis. So I'm hoping that I can play tennis with friends of mine that are my age. That's the whole plan. What a great workout. Was out there for like 2 hours. I went by really fast. Played some really good games. We were supposed to play 3 sets. Played 2. My friend got a little bit overworked. So we only played 2. Split them 1-1. To be continued. I'll let you know. Give you an update next time who won the 3-setter. But for now, it is tied at 1. So I had a great time, left there. I was going to go to the bike trail, which is right near his house, and ride my bike, but I was just feeling a little bit tired, and it was a little bit, it was actually right after lunch, and we just had a cool down, or a cold front not too long ago, which lasted like 3 weeks, which was fantastic. The weather warmed up today, so it was in the mid-80s. And this week is going to be in the mid-80s. Oh, I'm telling you, man, I'm just so fed up. And you guys are probably saying, if you guys live in the Midwest or Northeast, or you guys are probably saying, why is this guy bitching and moaning and complaining? It's not even the vent yet, and he's already whining about the weather. Listen, when you live in a hot and humid environment, I was going to say heat, but when you live in a hot and humid environment, and it's basically a year-round thing, you get sick of it. And this time of the year, during the fall, you enjoy the cooler weather. You love it. You can't wait to get to, to get some of that 40-degree, 50-degree, 30-degree weather, which I'm hoping we get this year. So it's a bummer that it's already hot again. Not humid, thank God, but just a little bit warm. So I was going to go hit the bike trail, and I thought about it, and I was like, man, I can just hit the bike trail and get a beer along the way in this little cozy place along the bike trail. But I decided to opt out and just go home, and that's what I ended up doing. Came home after picking up some food and a smoothie from my favorite place, Tropical Smoothie Cafe. Fantastic. Love you guys. Thanks, Tropical Smoothie. So went there, picked that up, easy in and out. The lady that was there, older lady, I don't know, man. She's a nice lady, but every time I order a peanut butter cup, it's just, she doesn't make it. She doesn't do it right. The younger kids that work there, they always do it right. But when she's there, it's never the same. But hey, guess what? She did a good job, and it was really good. So I'm just excited about that, and really happy that I got my tropical smoothie, and I got my little flatbread. Came home, and I just started watching football. And then I just, as soon as I got home, I turned on my laptop and started watching. I completely forgot about the GSP Bisping fight, which I don't know about you guys, but I'm not surprised about the results. GSP hasn't fought in 4 years. He is arguably one of the greatest MMA fighters to ever fight. To me, he really is. I've seen that guy just dominate a division all the way through, and then he comes back and fights a guy who's been in MMA for UFC basically for the last 10 years, maybe a little bit longer. They're both right around the same age. Obviously, GSP is a better, well-rounded fighter. I've seen so many of his fights, and I've seen him dominate so many guys with different styles and all that. The guy just knows how to mold himself into his opponent's art, into his opponent's structure, and he's just a great fighter. He knows how to look at their weaknesses and take advantage, and it's amazing. It goes from round by round, and you see him just adjust to the fight, mold himself, and then take advantage of that fighter's weakness. So it is amazing to watch him fight, and it has been for the last 10 years now, 12 years that I've been watching him fight. 10 years, I think. I think he came out in 2006. He took 4 years off, the last 4 years, and he just came back. So it's impressive that he just beat Bisping for the championship. And it's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen with Bisping, if he's going to fight other fighters at that weight class, like Luke Rockhold and guys like that, and Weidman, and maybe you're going to see an Anderson Silva fight. I'm thinking that's going to come down to where that's going to be worked on, because those two guys were supposed to fight a long time ago and they never did. So you might see that fight finally. But it's like, 10 years too late, man. If that's going to be the equivalent of Pacquiao Mayweather. So I really don't have an interest for that fight, but it's going to be interesting to see if he's going to stay at this weight class, or if he's just going to abandon the belt and go back to his original weight class, which I'm thinking he's probably going to end up doing, because if he stays at this weight class, these other guys are bigger guys, and they fought better fighters. Not to take anything away from Bisping, but he really got lucky in his last 3 fights. And one of those fights was Anderson Silva. You guys know, if you're familiar with UFC and MMA, you're familiar with what happened with Anderson Silva. So he hasn't been the same guy since Weidman knocked him out, 4 years ago or 3 years ago, maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So you have a lot of young fighters that are very strong and very, very good at that weight class. So it's going to be hard for him to dominate. This was actually the perfect fight for GSP as far as coming back. And I'm really surprised that they gave him that championship fight against Bisping. I mean, this is his first fight back in the last 4 years. So I just think the UFC needs to stop doing that, man. There's a lot of young fighters right now that deserve a title shot, and it's completely unfair to the champions too, because they don't have a say in who they're fighting next. UFC, they basically own these fighters, and they run this company, and they run all the fights. And it's really them who are laying down the fight work, the fight plan for fighters, which is completely unfair. But it is what it is. So I saw the highlights of that fight. Wasn't surprised by the results. I kind of felt bad for Bisping. He talks a lot of smack, but he seems to be a really good guy. And what's amazing about that guy, whatever you might want to feel about his last 3 fights, which I just mentioned that he probably got lucky in some of them, but he really did. But it's amazing that the guy won that belt. And I didn't know this until today. I believe his left eye, he is blind in that eye, pretty much blind from that eye. So he's fighting on one eye, and it's pretty incredible. His toughness is incredible, really. You cannot question the man's toughness with one eye and winning the championship belt. So that, to me, he has my respects, man. I think that's, for the guy to be fighting on one eye, man, that is just amazing. So good for you, Bisping. You did a good job. Sucks that you couldn't keep it any longer, or keep that belt longer. But yeah, you definitely have my respect. The other fight that I ended up seeing was the Cody Garbrandt, I just probably butchered his name, and the TJ Dillashaw fight. I didn't see the full fight. I saw the highlights. And it looked like an okay fight. Dillashaw got knocked down and almost got knocked out, saved by the bell. Next round comes out, and Dillashaw knocks out Garbrandt. And I was actually surprised by that, because Cody is a really good fighter. He's a hothead, but he's a really good fighter. And a lot of the stuff that he does in the ring, it's pretty amazing that he gets away with a lot of the stuff. Except for last night, he didn't get away with those kinds of antics in the ring. But he did get knocked out by TJ Dillashaw. So it seemed to be a good fight. Reading the comments, and a lot of people didn't like that fight. So who knows? I didn't watch it, but I just saw the highlights. So Cody is a really good fighter. He'll be back, and you're definitely going to see a rematch, and that's going to be most likely the next fight. Which, again, it's kind of messed up, because that's what's going to happen. There's a lot of guys waiting now to fight the winner of this fight, and they're not going to be able to, because there's going to be a quick rematch of this fight. And it's all about the money with the UFC, and that's the one thing that I hate about this company. Now, if this would be a company where it cares about their fighters, then it would be the next fight against DJ Dillashaw. The next fight would be against him and a runner-up, not Cody. So who knows what's going to happen? Actually, we all know. We all know what's going to happen, and it's a bummer. So that was it. MMA looked interesting last night. UFC looked interesting. The other thing that I saw while I'm here talking about MMA was Michael Page. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Michael Page. He fights in Bellator. Excuse me. He fights in Bellator, and he's an incredible talent, amazing fighter. He just had his first boxing bout, and he looked really good against an okay competitor, an okay boxer. But still, I mean, the guy that he fought is a guy who's been fighting for a while, for a long time. So he did a good job. He looked great against that guy. So I hope to see Michael Page in this boxing ring, in this boxing arena. I hope he keeps it up, and I hope he keeps doing it, because I think it's exciting and I think it's fun to watch. But I think this whole boxing thing is going to help him out, though, even more in the cage. I mean, what more does Michael Page need, man? That guy's fantastic. So that was that. That's my little vent on MMA last night. So today, like I said, I after coming back from riding my bike, and I forgot too, I played a little bit of tennis. Actually, I didn't ride my bike. Oh my God, I think I have CTE now from sitting on my couch. So, oh man, I've had multiple concussions on my recliner. Sorry, ladies and gents. But anyways, so I came home and I started watching some football, watched the Jaguars. Man, the Jaguars look great. That defense looks awesome. It's probably one of the best defensive teams in the NFL. Their offense looks better. It doesn't look great, but they're improving. You can see week by week improvement when it comes to their offense. Their defense looks really, really good. Kind of reminds me of the old Steelers teams. They're actually, both teams are just a lot alike. Had to take some water. So I ended up watching that for a little bit, and that ended up being a good game. Started watching the Kansas City game against Dallas. It's halftime right now. Actually, it's third quarter, and this is a really good game. Alex Smith looks really good right now. And so I've been watching football basically all afternoon after I got home from playing tennis. As we speak right now, I'm watching this game. This is 17-14 right now. Kansas City's winning. Third quarter, 6 minutes left in the third quarter. This is going to go down to the wire. And I might end up watching the rest of this game. Might not. I might be on my bike for my Sunday night ride, and I'll give you an update on my next podcast. But it's been an interesting day of football, especially when you go online and you start reading about that Texas shooting, another shooting in our country. 27 people died from the shooting. Man, we are decaying as a society, man. We have to do something. I spoke about this before. I don't know what you can do. I don't know what can you do to stop these shootings. You can't. It's extremely sad what's going on with our country right now. So especially of the massacre in Vegas. And then you had that psycho in New York, that terrorist running over people. Another sickening action. And then you have this Texas shooting on a Sunday at a Baptist church. Honestly, how low can people get, man? That is so evil. A house of worship, man. That is so disgusting and evil. But I don't want to spend too much time on that. It's really sad news coming out of Texas. So my Halloween follow-up, I believe I talked about it in my last podcast. I had a good night. It was a lot of fun. This is the first time in 6 years that I didn't buy any candy. And lo and behold, every single kid in the neighborhood with their parents showed up at my front door, trick or treating, and I didn't have any candy. I had egg on my face. And I was upset because before this year, I bought candy every single year since I moved into the house. And nobody has ever shown up. Nobody has ever knocked on my door. So I usually take those bags of candy back to work and give it away to the guys over there. I wouldn't say I've wasted my money for the last 5 years, 5 out of 6 years, but I have. Not really, because my coworkers have eaten all the candy, but it is frustrating when your favorite part of the year falls on Halloween and in October, and you have all this candy to give away, and you're excited and watching the horror movie, and you're getting into that mood and that mode and that ambiance, and then nobody shows up at your front door, even though you have tons of candy. So that's what happened. That's what happened this year. Nobody showed up. So halfway through my night, I decided to go to the store. Got in my car, went to the store, and as I'm driving around the neighborhood, there were so many kids out and about. I was kind of impressed by the amounts of kids that were just trick-or-treating all over the neighborhood with their parents and all that. A lot of kids. They're like 10 years old. I would say between 6 and 12, 13 years old. But I was kind of disappointed and none of them showed up at my house. Oh, I'm sorry. They did show up at my house. I just didn't have candy. Duh. But what I was going to say was I was disappointed that I didn't buy any candy. But it was really cool to see all these kids being out and about in the neighborhood, because it just made me reminisce on my childhood and what I used to do as a kid. The same thing that these kids were doing, that's what I was doing when I was a kid. So if you guys ever watch Stranger Things, and if you're listening, if you're younger, if you're in your 20s, mid-20s, this is, if you watch the show Stranger Things, besides the whole sci-fi aspect of the show, but what these kids do in these episodes, that's what we were doing when we were kids back in the 80s, riding our bikes, hanging out at the arcade, playing football, basketball, baseball, whatever it was, hanging out at our friend's house, playing video games with friends, being at the mall. That's what it was back in those days for all of us who are in our mid-30s to in our 40s. So that's what we used to do. That's exactly how it was when we were kids. And it was really cool to see that today with all these, this past Halloween with all these kids being out and about trick-or-treating. So I go to the store like I told you guys, and I almost ended up buying bags of candy, and I was going to bring them back, but it was too expensive, man. There was some price gouging going on there. I almost ended up buying some Cheerios, and I was just going to hand that out. I was going to hand out some Cheerios for Halloween, man. That would have been so funny. I would have loved seeing the people's faces. Their look on their faces. Oh no, Cheerios. Oh my God, it's breakfast. But anyways, nah, I didn't. It would have been funny, but I didn't do it. I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that, man. But it was cool to see that, and it was really fun just to drive to the store and see all these kids being out and about trick or treating, because I haven't really seen that amount or that many kids in a long time, and I'm thinking you can blame that on the economy. So it was the first year, not to say that kids weren't out last year, but there were more kids out this year. So it was the first time in a long time that I can say that there was a large amount of kids, the same amount of kids that you would see in our neighborhood and around the city when I was a kid. So that was really interesting to see. So it was a cool Halloween. I just wish I would have had some candy so I could have handed some of that candy out. So it was a good night just hanging out at the house and just watching scary movies. And now, on the vent, the bitching, the moaning, I'm going to segue into the vent segment. I'm going to segue into this segment. I'm going to keep this under 30 like I promised you guys at the beginning of the podcast. But the other night, I was riding around, it was Friday night, and this is what I'm going to do every Friday night. You guys know about my Sunday night rides. So I'm going to do this on Sunday nights, but I'm going to do it half the distance. So what I'm going to do on Friday nights is I'm basically going to go and find and just get on my bike, go to the gym, work out for a little bit, and then hit a pub, a small little bar around the area. And I'm going to try to do, which I will do, a different pub every Friday, a different place, so I can experience all these different places every Friday night. So that's gonna be my plan for now on. I started Friday, and it was a lot of fun. I went to the gym, worked out, did some bench, left, and I had a pub in mind, not too far from the gym, but I was like, you know what? Let me make a turn here and let me go to this area of town that I haven't been in a while. There was at the time the last time that I was there was a lot of cool pubs. I was like, let me go check it out. So I went there, and I went to this little corner pub. The people that were sitting outside seemed really cool. The people that were sitting inside were cool. They were younger than me, but I was like, it seems like a cool place. Let me go in there and grab a beer. So I went in there and I sat down by the bar and ordered an Oktoberfest beer because I love Oktoberfest beers. So grab my beer, and I'm watching the Wizards and Cavaliers game, which was a pretty good game. LeBron went off with like 60 points that night. He looked like a beast. And when you look at LeBron play, when he has a night like that, I'm thinking, man, this guy can do this every single night, and he can. But he doesn't do it because I'm thinking he's waiting on his teams and teammates to do some scoring, and a lot of guys on his team are not consistent. So this is what's going through my head as I'm watching this game. And out of the left corner of my eye there, out of my corner of my eye, in my ear, I started listening to a conversation of these two, and you can definitely tell they had a few drinks in them. These two guys were having, and I guess I'm assuming they were there with their girlfriends or whatever. And one of them, they're talking about politics and political correctness, and one of them was like, that's why you can't bring up any political conversations with you liberals. And then the other guy goes, well, it's not our fault that you Republicans don't listen and you conservatives. And I'm like, oh my God, are you freaking kidding me? Do we really have to talk about politics? I mean, not we, but do you guys have to talk about politics at a bar? Can you give it a rest? Everybody goes to a bar to hang out and chill and watch a game. The reason why you go to a bar is to escape from your household, to escape from politics, to escape from work, to escape from your day, from your week, from your month. That's why we go there. That's why I go there. I don't go there to talk about politics. I don't go there to talk about anything that's going to be divisive in a conversation, especially when it comes to politics, especially when it comes to gun rights, especially when it comes to healthcare. I'm not bringing none of that crap up at a bar. What I want to talk about is sports. That's what I want to talk about at a bar. Or even history. Or even places you traveled. I mean, those are interesting conversations. Politics to me at a bar is not interesting because it all ends up like it ended up what I listened to that night, which was two guys bitching and moaning about nothing, basically, because the two of them were so drunk they weren't making any sense. It was the stupidest conversation that I've had to endure in my life at a bar. It was so dumb. So I'm sitting at the bar And I really just wanted to tell them to shut the F up. But I'm like, you know what? I'm not going to let these two morons ruin my time here. So I just kept drinking my beer and watching the game. But the whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, are these people this stupid? Like, what? Like, seriously, why do you go to a bar to talk about politics? It's so dumb. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, I hope these guys would just shut up. And so they go from there to talking about basketball, and then they bring politics into basketball. I'm like, what the hell does politics have to do with anything? What does basketball have to do with anything with politics? I mean, it was so stupid. So at that point, honestly, if I was a bar owner or a bartender, I would have kicked them out, or I would have said, hey man, you guys need to change the conversation. And if you're not going to change it, you need to leave my establishment. That's the way that I would have handled that. Because it's so divisive, nobody wins that conversation. People get pissed off, and nobody comes out a winner. Everybody comes out a loser. Even the guy that has nothing to do with it and is just sitting there watching a game like me. So, at that point, as I'm sitting there, I was like, man, you know what? Maybe those two people that are sitting outside, maybe there was a reason why they're sitting outside. Because they heard this dumbass conversation, and now they are sitting outside just hanging out because they don't want to listen to that stupid stuff. So, and I'm pretty sure that's what they were doing in there, because they came back inside and grabbed the beer and then quickly made their way outside. So I was just like, man, okay, whatever. So I had my beer, and I had another one. I had a banana bread, a Wells banana bread, which is one of my favorite banana bread beers. So it was delicious. I had my beer and I left. And I couldn't take it anymore. And the whole way through, my whole way home, my whole ride, actually, let's not even go that far. I'm going to backtrack a little bit. So I left the bar, got on my bike, and then I went to the next bar that I originally was going to go to. So I went there, and the atmosphere there was completely different. It was more civil. Everybody was just there talking about different things, and it was interesting. The people behind the bar were extremely nice, and it was so cool just to sit there and relax, and just like, not that I was eavesdropping, but I heard a few conversations that were going on, and it wasn't about politics. It was about different things and intellectual stuff. So it was a really cool time. The 15 minutes that I spent at that pub, it was really cool. It kind of saved my night from the stupidity that I heard at the previous pub. So I was so happy to go there. Needless to say, I'm not going back to that bar. I mean, I might. I'm going to take a break. Not that I'm going to take a break, but it's going to be a while before I go back to that place. I'm going to check it out again. Maybe the crowd is different. Maybe these people that were there are not regulars. They're not like the regular barflies, which that's what I'm hoping. So, but I'm going to check it out, but later down the road. I'm definitely not going to go anytime soon just because of that stupid conversation. And that's why bar owners and pub owners shouldn't let people talk about politics at a bar. The old Irish bar that I used to go to, that was their motto on the wall. Do not talk about politics or religion, period. And everybody that went there adhered to it. So this is what every single pub and bar owner should do. But I'm not going to go back there for a little while. I'm just going to go to different places now. I'm just like my original plan, like I told you earlier in this conversation. And I'm just going to go hit different places every Friday night just for a little bit, grab one beer and then leave just to see how the atmosphere is like. And maybe in one of those bars I can find a gym that I can go hang out on my night off. On my night off, basically when I don't have to work the next day. So that's the whole plan and reasoning behind my Friday night rides, because they're short and I'm just going to look for different little pubs and bars to go hang out at. But people, seriously, stop. Don't talk about politics and religion at a pub. I mean, I don't get this whole hatefulness about politics and religion and people's skin colors, and they did cover something that was true. People are too sensitive now, and that is very true. But I don't get that either. Why are people so damn sensitive? But if you're gonna hate somebody on a Sunday during the fall, during football season, let's hate them because it's your opponent, your rival football team, because it's a rival team of the team that you follow. Let's hate them based on teams that you follow. Let's get that hatefulness behind the teams, the NFL teams that you follow, the NBA teams that you follow, the NCAA college teams that you follow. The dislike between the Giants fans and the Eagles and the Jets and the Bills, or Jets and Patriots. Let's hate each other for that. Can we just do that? I'm pretty sure if we do that and if we hate each other on Sundays, this would be such a better country to live in. We wouldn't be so hateful to each other. So let's keep it simple. Let's just hate each other on Sundays. If my Bills are playing the Dolphins, I'm hating the Dolphins and the Dolphins fans. If the Browns are playing the Ravens, hate each other all you want. And let's keep it during the season and playoffs and the Super Bowl. Okay? That's my plan. That's my plan to end this hate that we have in our country right now. So let's try it and see if it works out. Let's just hate each other based on the teams that we like. Does that sound good? Does it make sense? It makes sense to me. But anyways, that's the end of the Smarmy Grin Podcast, episode number 22. Thank you for listening. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend and an awesome week. And I hope you guys have a great week next week. Enjoy your daylight savings time. See ya!